we have, all right. So for today, we have Philip. He's a backend software developer at Adidas, and he has a knack for understanding the inner working of things, and he has experience in designing and building highly scalable system using the wide range of tools and techniques. So today, Philip will be sorry. I am super not following this stuff. So today, let's go back to that. Philip will be taking us on creative thinking, thinking outside the box, creative techniques that work. And we will be talking about understanding the importance of creativity and innovation in workplace, exploring different creative techniques such as brainstorming and mind mapping, and so on and so forth, overcoming common barriers to creativity such as fear of failure and self-doubt, applying creative thinking to problem solving and decision making. Then we'll be having a group activity. I think Philip has another thing planned for this part. So yeah, so we are so looking forward to your session, Philip. So thank you very much for joining. I'll stop sharing now. Oh, okay. Yeah, so please, Philip, can you just take over from here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Though I don't have screen sharing, right? So I don't know what the plan is for that. In any case, thank you for the opportunity. I'm super delighted. I guess it's good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time zone you're in. Yeah, and I was approached and given this opportunity, and I feel like it's an honor to empower. As someone said, if you've been empowered, you have to empower others. So that's the mantra that I'm walking by or walking with. So yeah, here I am, and I'm going to walk you through. Okay, I have the rights now. I'm going to walk you through creative thinking. It's an interesting domain, so to speak. Yeah, of course, I got this the how can I say, the agenda, and by then I had sort of already drafted the slides or the presentation how I thought best. So yeah, pardon me if it doesn't follow strictly the norm, but I'll do my best to chip in what is there. Okay, so yeah, I'm using, again, not to advertise for Lucid Chat, but since I use it for architecture, I always find it easier to think when I'm using Lucid Chat. So yeah, creative thinking. I don't know if anyone has a question quickly. I don't know if my introduction was on point, but yeah, that's it. Do I start from here, or you have something else to say?
Yes, quickly. I think it would just be good for everyone to also know a bit of your background.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because we know you work at Adidas, but I mean, which is a big company for a lot of us on here. So we would really like if you could share a bit of your background, and yeah.
All right. Yeah, I will try to be modest. But yeah, as they always say, work hard work. That's the easy answer. But again, that's cliche, because hard work is only part of the equation. I think it's hard for me to explain how to get here or how I got here, but I think it's I think three factors: God, hard work, and reading a lot. So yeah, basically when school ended, I didn't stop there. You know, I think education starts right after school, not in school. And so that's what I did. So that's like the easy answer: God, working hard, and reading. Yeah, so how I got here, the background, you know, I did computer science at Makerere University for a couple of years, and branched into the software career roughly in 2017. Worked for a couple of companies, worked for Chap, worked for Celio, volunteered at Andela, mentoring learners, then moved to Outbox. There I was working in a consultants department at Outbox. So we had a couple of partners from UNFPA to Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Health, Clinton Health Access Initiative, basically a bunch of clients, that allowed me to get exposed to different techniques, different modes of thinking, different styles of coding, and yeah, that's been my career in a nutshell. It's if I go any more than that, it would take the whole presentation.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, sure. Is that it? Do I continue with the presentation?
Yes, please.
All right. Yeah. So Philip Kigenye, backend software engineer at Adidas in Spain. And I was given this opportunity to go through creative thinking. And I'll try to present how best I can, because the audience is it's very diverse, from different backgrounds. And I don't know if everyone will follow or everyone will agree, depending on your level of exposure to different things. You may follow, you may not, but I hope at the end of it all, you pick out something that you can use. I think it's designed in such a way that you don't need to capture everything, but this is more like a mode of thinking. It's not so much how things should be done, like the 10 ways of doing something. It is a mode of thinking. So creative thinking. And I'm going to be using something called mental models. And so basically a mental model is simply a representation of how something works in simple terms. We cannot keep all the details of the world in our brains, so we use models to simplify the complex into understandable and organizable chunks. So basically, how can I say, if I ask you what is software engineering, you're not going to open a dictionary or Wikipedia and begin explaining from A to Z. You just have a small, idea of what it is. It's basically, input, output. You tell the computer what to do, and it performs as requested. So basically, we all have mental models. We have mental models on, several topics, on gender equality, work, on success, on life. So our brains are wired to just have very narrow snippets of what something is, and that's called a mental model. And so growing up, you go through life having different experiences, and those experiences shape your mental model of how things are. If I ask you anything, you will have a definition of what it is, but really what it is a mental model, a mental map of reality. So I'm going to try to explain certain aspects, how to go through creative work, using this. So basically, instead of just waiting for our brains to naturally form it, I'm going to show you a way to artificially be in control of that process, of that natural occurring process, if you will. Again, this is just a mode of thinking, but this is how most of us process information anyway. For those who are curious, there are resources from which I've derived most of this. It could take you forever to complete all of them, but it's worth the read. And bottom line is basically creative thinking. You try to solve a problem per se, and it doesn't matter what it is or how you do it, but you're trying to impact positively or negatively, and so you need to keep that in mind. What impact are you having with this idea or with this thought process? And as humans, we are pattern recognition animals. That's what I was saying with mental models. We just recognize patterns. And so this presentation will try to show you these patterns of thought. And yeah, bottom line is measure twice, cut once. So I hope this helps you go through your next decision-making process with a measure twice, cut once mentality. So you don't want to just start coding and then 2 weeks later you have tech debt, and then that tech debt takes another 3 months. And then because of that tech debt, someone else is making it even worse. And so if you measure twice and cut once, you find that you face you have less garbage or less work to do down the road. So like I'm giving an example of tech debt. I don't know if all of you know what tech debt is, but anyway, yeah, basically it's unfinished work or decisions that you make in the beginning that later on costs you down the road. So yeah, so you don't want to have a lot of that happening in your career anyway. I don't know how many are developers, designers, architects, but I'll presume the language cuts across. So what we shall try to walk through is a scenario, redesign the feedback screen. So we all have apps and most of them have a feedback section. And I don't know about you, but I'm a very cautious person. Like I'm very aware of the tools I use. There's a book called Design of Everyday Things. I've forgotten his name, but the book is called Design of Everyday Things. And it looks at doors, windows, chairs. And when you read that book, it allows you to see beyond the gadget or beyond the tool. And what always interests me is the feedback screen, how different companies design that feedback screen. Some allow you to take pictures, some text, some video. And so I thought it was an interesting design process to look at. I'll try to follow it to the dot. I may digress once in a while, but yeah, this is just to keep us to hinge us to something, to stay hinged on something. But yeah, nonetheless, I think feedback screen is a good one. So we have, to zoom out a bit, we have like 3 broad categories of thought. We have the ideation phase, the election or selection phase, and then the execution. So I go to ideation. So ideation, you've been told, people are complaining the app is unusable or something, and we don't know what's happening. So we need to improve either the way information is captured, or maybe the text is unreadable, or the videos or pictures are unclear. And so basically you're in that phase. They've defined a problem, but you need to realize it's not the full problem. It's just a hunch or a perception per se. And so the first step is to Genchi Gembutsu. It's an idea from the Toyota production system. Go and see. So don't just say, hey, this is what they reported, so let's process or let's start working on it. Or you go to Google Analytics and you see how the users are using the app, and then you take that as truth. You need to call in the user group, talk to them, watch them use the app, see these errors in action, and yeah, just have as much information as you can about the problem you're trying to solve. So Genchi Genbutsu, go and see. So, and then you have the 6 hats, again quickly, but 6 hats is an idea of creativity. And I think this whole presentation, you will see sort of breadcrumbs of it littered all over. But nonetheless, I'll quickly walk you through and see how it goes. So you've discovered, you've gone to the source, root cause, you found a root cause, and now you're trying to like brainstorm and find the best way of solving that feedback screen problem. So you start from the white hat, pretty much, is what Genchi Genbutsu is. You go collect all you can, process it, analyze it. If you have data analysts, do that and everything. And then you have depending on what angle you go in, it depends. You can go with the emotions. How do users feel using the app? Are they happy? And then you look at the caution and negativity, what will happen when we take this solution, what are the consequences. And then you could look at the positivity, what that solution could bring about. And then you can go back to creating a new solution. So basically it's like a cycle, if you will. So you come up with an idea, you think of the emotions, you think of what could go wrong, you think of what could go right, and you go back to creating more ideas. And I think that's what this presentation is going to try to show in a bit. But yeah, this is an ideology in and of itself, which I think even if I stopped here, it would be good enough. But nonetheless, I have 40 or 20 minutes. So I'll go ahead and show you what happened. So yeah, basically you have your ideas, they're all good. You're trying to really understand the problem. You have 50 ways of solving it. And yeah, and then this is the black side, the black hat. You're like, okay, what are the fallacies and biases that could be at play? And if you look, these lines are all straight, but I presume you all see them as zigzag. The horizontal lines are straight. And this is an optical illusion. Then, this is also dots. The white dots appear dark in some sections as your eyes move about because of the way the light hits the retina and everything. So this is an example of bias, innate bias, or how your faculties of reason and your sensory perception can give you the wrong image of things. So you have bias is like confirmation bias. You look for things that affirm what you've already found. Recency bias, you look for things that because of something bad that happened, you only look for things that pertain to that idea or to that ideal. Yeah, there are so many biases. The list goes on and on. For fallacies, you have appeal to emotion. The person who shouts the most or has the loudest or shouts the most, basically who displays the most emotion or is more passionate sort of tends to win the argument. Or you have an appeal to the stone. There are so many fallacies that ad hominem attacks, basically attacking the person instead of focusing on the idea. So I think so this is again one of those. You have someone's reasoning like this, so sees it as a 6, someone sees it as a 9. And so it's crucial in this ideation phase to realize that this person is coming from a certain angle. And why are they coming? What makes them come from, bring out that idea in that way? What's their viewpoint? And you need to be humble enough to realize that we are all in some ways skewed or broken in some way, or basically inclined to one thing or another. And once you sort of eliminate all the biases and fallacies that could befall the participants, you then move to map is not the territory. So map is not the territory is, you need to be humble enough to realize that all that you've gathered is just a representation of reality. It is not reality. It is just a representation of reality. So that means, yes, people don't like the feedback screen, and yes, you've gathered data. But if tomorrow a new iOS version is released or a new Android update is released, all of a sudden everything could change. Or if this user is, if internet costs, go up, that territory could change. So basically, your perception or your idea of what you've gathered is only just a representation. It's not the reality. The reality is always changing, so to speak. But yeah, so just be humble enough to realize that it may not perfectly fit, or your perception may not be the real thing. Yeah, that's the map, is not the territory. And here you have one classic example. To defeat Antaeus, Heracles separated him from the source of his power. So Heracles, Antaeus had this weird power where if he was if his feet were on the ground, he had so much power. He was so strong. And once you pulled him off, or once he jumped in the air, he sort of lost that power. And so Heracles sort of discovered that and carried him and hoisted him straight into the air. And there he lost all his powers. So that's how you are, basically. That's how we all are when we detach from reality. And we need to sort of, like in this ideation phase, ask ourselves, are we still hinged on reality, or have we become antios? Yeah. I may be going pretty fast for some. I hope I'm not. Someone could comment or raise a hand. I'm not sort of following. Oh, someone says, could you share a book? I'll try to respond to this as best as I can, but I hope the speed is good enough. I can be fast at times. So election phase. So basically you have gone through the ideation. You have like 50 ways of doing things. You've tried to go through your biases and fallacies. You've tried to make sure that your feet are underground, that kind of thing. And now you're trying to decide what decision is the best, like, because not all those 50 ideas can make it to the production pipeline, or because everything is about cost. You can't have money invested in all those ideas, otherwise you would run bankrupt, as so many companies are right now. Anyway, election. So you decide which ideas to deploy to the market, or what may be. So you have the 80-20 rule. Basically, it states that 20% of the action contributes to 80% of the results, or the other way around. Basically, this rule applies to wealth, population distribution, even the source code. Anytime you have a bunch of data or data points, if you apply this rule, you realize it's true, and not to say it's cast in stone, but at least from my experience, I always see this wherever I go. And so you need to dissect these, or chop these ideas into the 80-20 and ask yourself, which of these rules are actually the best? What are those 20 out of the 100 rules, or 100 ideas? What are those 20 best ideas? And so you just chop it off and you stay with 20 ideas. And that saves you a lot of time and money down the road. And yeah, and even when you've done so, you still have another hurdle. The hurdle is you don't know what you don't know. And okay, yeah, these two are sort of related, but let me stop here. You don't know what you don't know. Basically, those 20 ideas now that you're left with have so many hypotheses, but you need to decide on something that will sort of affect you less, will have the least impact, or the least cost, or basically the biggest gain for the buck. And yeah, so you go for something that you sort of know well, and you execute. And I think this picture sort of illustrates how we think as humans. We are self-preserving creatures, and we like to take shortcuts. And so I think you need to just sort of follow your innate wiring, if you will. And that's the Occam's razor. So basically, you're just trying to take shortcuts. You have those 20 ideas, but ask yourself, of those 20 ideas, which ones are this and which ones are those, that are pretty having clear objectives and clear goals, and start with those. And below that, we have complex and complicated. So of those now, let's say you've decided that now you're left with 10 ideas. Now those 10 ideas, there is what we call complex and complicated. So let me try to explain. So let's start with complexity. Complexity is like, if you try to explain if I say what's computer science, and it is a very complex domain. Yeah, it's complex in itself. Or if I said what's a smartwatch or what's a smartphone, it's complex in itself. But complicated is when you literally can't explain it. So I don't know if all of you code, but you've reached those. So let me explain it in terms of source code, something that you can easily understand. So you have mode of view controller. patterns, So basically, these are patterns that allow you to structure your code a certain way. And that allows you to take the ambiguity out of things. So you know where the data goes, where the controllers are, where the logic sits, and the presentation layer, how do you present to the outside world? And so that's a pattern model view controller that we use in coding, and it works pretty well. But it does not take away the complexity. The complexity is still there. All you've done is sort of structure it in a certain way. Now, complicated is when you don't use model view controller and you just throw your code how you wish. And yeah, you now end up with a situation where the code is just complicated. You have spaghetti, you can't follow where the database code is being made and everything else. And so complexity is sort of innate. You cannot get rid of it. But complicated is something that we can control and we should try to avoid. So like as I've explained, MVC tries to address how do you organize things. And if you don't, you end up in a complicated situation. Both of them are complex. Both of them are hard. Like if you decide to build a software system, it is complex. That's no doubt. But you have to think of, are you trying to reduce the complicatedness of it? Are you making it clear how to do things? And so, yeah, think of that trade-off sort of in the ideas that you have. Are you having like ideas that are sort of hairy and hard to digest? That is something to look out for. And then below that is complexity. Now let's just focus on complexity. As you design that screen, there is an urge or the urge to sort of simplify everything. But you need to realize that the complexity is constant. So I don't know if you've all used apps. I don't know if you all use Netflix, but Netflix it's like the one below. The designers or developers take on a huge portion of the complexity. And the user all he has is watch, like play, pause, that's all. But behind that play and pause button is the complexity. And so below the diagram below is showing how Netflix sort of designs that. It is saying to itself, we as a developers, we are the designers, we shall take in that complexity and the user will have less of it. On top, the user shares a good portion of that. I won't mention systems, but you all know those banking apps which take you forever to make a transaction. Yeah, so those are ones where the complexity is on the user. And so you need to ask yourself, this feedback screen, to what degree can we share the complexity with the user? Because inevitably, that complexity has to fall somewhere. And okay, I don't know if all of you are still following, but below that, now after you've solved the complexity problem, even if you go for the Netflix way of solving the design, let's say here, or the Adidas way, those who have checked out our app, and you decide that the complexity is shared by the developers, eventually, somehow, in a weird way, the user will always find ways of making their side complex. In other words, complexity always grows. So the user will again, with the ease of use. I don't know. Okay, let me give you an example that's much clearer. So if you've been a developer for quite some while, your data team will tell you, hey, we have our users. Can you crunch for us data and show us how many users are clicking the send button? How long are they taking? So they want analytics. And so you crunch up the data, send them an Excel sheet. And this is something that they were taking weeks or months to create. But because you've helped them create that Excel sheet in one hour, they're like so happy. But I can assure you, in like 2 days, they will return with another request. They'll be like, can you now group this like this and structure this way? And before you know it, that Excel sheet has become an app in and of itself. In 1 year's time, that Excel sheet will become an app. Like it will become so complex. So users have that tendency to sort of make things impose complexity on things. And so you need to also ask yourself, as much as you're trying to eliminate that complexity, how much of it can you leave for them? Because once you take it out, the users will get bored. And once they get bored, they will come up with like more features. Yeah, it's been really a long rant on that one. I hope, though it wasn't the target, but I thought it was interesting. So second order thinking. So just to wrap up what we're doing here, we have come from ideation. We have all our ideas. There've been 100 ideas, so to speak. We found the best ideas. We came to election. We chose the top 20. We came to Occam's razor. We thought to ourselves, hey, we need to choose the ideas with the least assumptions. We narrowed them down to, let's say, 10 of them. And then second order thinking. So you have 10 ideas. Second order thinking is saying, think about what will happen when you deploy this feature, or when, like, this is actually, I was sort of doing second order thinking with the Excel sheet. You've deployed the feature, people are happy, people want more features on the Excel sheet, you keep producing more and more features. And so that is second order thinking. You need to think about what will happen after you've released that Excel sheet. You know, is it going to impact the bottom line? Are we going to increase sales? Are we going to, you know, so you find that one improvement could, as much as it had an improvement in the second quarter, by the third quarter, that improvement is actually now negative. I don't know if you follow what I mean, but not all improvements are positive at the end. So something that started off well at the end becomes bad. So I don't know. I know many of you are not economics, you know, enthusiasts, but there's this thing called the welfare state. And so it's a welfare state is when people are broke. This was deployed in the US and in the UK. And so people are so broke, you give them a portion of money, like handouts. And what happens is initially the handouts are to allow people to get food for the day. But what that led to eventually was the breakup of families. So yeah, people are getting food now, but 5 years, 10 years down the road, families are now broken. So this is an example of second order thinking, where as much as something is positive now, in 5, 10 years, it's not positive anymore. Yeah, so think about what that improvement to the screen could do. Then system dynamics. System dynamics is a bit alongside second order thinking, but in a slightly different way. It's a course taught at MIT, I think, to all courses. I think it's taught all over, depending whether you're in undergraduate or postgraduate, I think. But basically the bottom line of this system dynamics is you may think that your improvement to the home screen or to your feedback screen by changing it from text-based to video-based is the one that led to the improvement in the user experience. But in actual sense, it was some guy, let's say Apple loosened its permission component. So right now, you know, Apple and Google have been sort of ramping up on this permission thing. And that has been having a negative effect on the user experience. And so what I'm trying to say is sometimes it's not your action per se that could be leading to the positive outcome, but it could be something from afar, like something far away that has the ripple effect. So it's an amalgamation of so many factors sort of that leads to that. So yeah, you may have this nice permission feature, you want to switch from text to pictures, and you launch it, and yeah, everything is working. But then Apple changes its permission and says before taking pictures or taking screenshots, the user has to accept this permission. And before you know it, it is no longer positive anymore. So this is basically trying to show that there are so many factors at play, and you sort of need to think about what factors are at play. If you're launching your feature and the company changes direction and they don't inject enough money in the testing of the system, they pull out from Firebase testing platform or something, then you have more, I don't know how to explain, but there are so many factors that sort of lead to just the end result that you think you're attaining, and you need to sort of think of those. Okay, reversible and reversible actions. Chemical reaction. We've all, I suppose, done chemistry. For those who haven't, it's okay. You've all seen chemicals at least somewhere. So basically you have two chemical reactions. You have reversible and irreversible. So, and when you now have those, I think now we're left with 5 decisions, I hope. So now you're left with 5 decisions to make. And you're trying to tell yourself, of these 5 decisions, which ones can I do now and won't have an impact? And I can reverse. So like you launch a feature and you retract the feature. There are those kind of actions that you can, but there are some actions which you can't. So you release something into the world and you can't retract it. So of those 5 decisions, let's say, I honestly can't think specifically because there's so much brainstorming going on in my head. But anyway, now you have the text, the video, and the many ways of collecting feedback. You can type, you can use text, and you can do what? You can take screenshots. Now, the reversible way is, hey, this feature that we're going to release, we're going to switch from text to screenshots. I think that's an easy one. But if you're moving from, I'm trying to find an irreversible one. It's quite hard to find that, but there are some actions that are irreversible. So let's say you have this app that has been in production for quite some time, and you move it, this feature that has been in a certain section of the app, you move it away and hide it in the settings screen. It could be quite hard to reverse that action. Like let's say the feedback screen was on the home screen, and now now you want to take it to the settings screen. I think there are apps, if you would agree that if you did that, it would be pretty detrimental. Like people would, I know that's not the best example, but most of my good examples are in other domains, which I don't want to use. But basically, you have certain actions among those 5 decisions, which are reversible and some which are irreversible. You can hardly reverse if you make them. And so you split between those. The easy wins are the reversible ones. Yeah, people want to have more text. They've been typing 100 words. They now want 300. Simple. Change that. Launch. Yeah, but if you change from text to video, I think it will take time for people to adjust. I don't know. I think some are quite, yeah. Then trade-offs. Everything is a compromise, so to speak. So you have these, I think now, 3 ideas. So let's say you have video and text. I know you have video and pictures as your feedback mechanism. Each of them have their positive and negative. And it is quite tempting to have both in the app, but I think you need to ask yourself if it is even possible, So you need to sort of ask yourself, which of these 2 can I use, or to what degree can I use both? And even if you chose one, how far can you take it? So if it is video, you can't make it a 1-hour video. And if it's screenshots, you can't have someone taking 100 screenshots just to give you feedback. So yeah, it's trade-offs. And each of those trade-offs has something that you have to think about very deeply. Some are expensive to the user. Now imagine someone is using 3G connection and you're telling them to send feedback through video. I think that would be a real hard one. So you need to weigh the trade-offs between video and text, or video and picture screenshots, and decide on that. And then eventually think of to what extent, how far do you turn up the dial? How long should a video be? What kind of video? What quality of video? How will you process it? All those are compromises that you sort of need to make. All right, that has been like in the trying to choose the election section, the selection area. Now, I think we're left with like two ideas at this point. You're left with like video and I guess and screenshots. So execution. As much as you've decided that you're going to use video, again, since we're in like the Gen Z era and TikTok era, I guess everyone is saying video on the other side of the screen. So yeah, video. You've decided that you're going to use video and you're so happy, you want to create like a feedback screen that's TikTok-like, and you're so happy you're going to launch. And then multiplication by 0 comes your way. So multiplying by 0 means something comes and stops you in like something like it is so hard for you to execute or to deploy that feature. It breaks like on launch. So someone's phone, like I was talking of the Apple permissions, if Apple sets a permission that no one can use the video permissions unless they have this number of followers or this number of users or something, that's a multiplication by 0. You have planned it out, you have done everything, you've done your homework, but as you're launching, you realize that, hey, you don't have the permissions to launch. You like your feature will be unusable, if you will. No one will ever find it. Or another one of multiplying by 0, the price of internet goes up by 50%. And so, hey, that's a good one. Multiplying by 0. All of a sudden, your nice feature is used by no one, literally. Yeah. There are so many examples. I'm trying to keep the examples sort of in a small realm, if you will. Leverage. Now, of course, now we are in the happy zone. We've come to one idea. We are so happy. Everything is good. But, we're in the era of work smart, not hard. So leverage means finding the tools, techniques, and skills that you need to do more with less, If you can if you can tap into a service provider that can allow you to capture feedback through your app, there's so many of those. There's some chat apps, there's some screen recording apps. There's, I think, Hotjar for web. Find the leverage. There's always leverage somewhere. Maybe if you so good, talk to the Google and Apples and, and let them get you a backdoor. No, not backdoor per se, but like special permissions. So some apps actually, if you don't know, for Android users, there's some apps that have more privilege, like they have background running processes much more than others, and it's because the manufacturer sort of prioritizes those apps. So yeah, if you can get that leverage, go ahead, talk to Samsung and get that leverage, which I know is far-fetched, but for this example, yeah, there's always leverage that you can find. And lastly, Red Queen. The Red Queen effect. So basically, the Red Queen effect, it's from, if you've watched Alice in Wonderland, there was this Red Queen who was running so fast, and Alice was saying, wow, we're in the same place, even though we're running so fast. And the Red Queen said, yeah, you have to, just to stay in the same place, you have to keep running even faster. And so I think that's what's happening in a software career or any career per se. You have to work so hard or to learn so much to just stay relevant. And so your ideas, before you started, you thought you're on the right track, and then you realize that the map has changed, if I may go back. So the territory keeps changing. And so as the territory changes, you realize that the Red Queen effect comes into play and you have to keep running even faster. So yeah, that's my talk in short. Over and out.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was amazing. I'm hearing a lot of Wonderland and some Red Coin stuff. Thank you for the amazing session. I'm sure there are a lot of questions for you, Philip. Yeah, so in our usual way, can we just please give clap to Philip in the chat? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's not. And so if you have questions for Philip, you can put them in the Q&A or in the chat box. Q&A will be better so we can keep track of it. Thank you very much, Philip. That was an amazing session. I can see the chat box already blowing up. Thank you. So before we take any question for Philip, we have a quick poll. Yeah. We have a quick poll. All right. And so I'm just going to launch this. We should take like the next 2 minutes.
Hi, Bami, can you hear me? Can everyone else hear me? I think Bami is frozen at the moment.
Yeah, I got frozen for a bit, so I had to change my internet.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so just like Bami rightly said, just putting your inputs to the poll. That should close in a few minutes from now. We still have Philip with us. If you have questions relating to the presentation, you can raise your hand so we can bring you up to speak, to ask your question, or if you want to use the chat box, that's also fine.
So yeah, while we wait for people to finish that poll, it's a very short one. Yeah.
All right. I think there are a few questions in the chats.
There's a question here in the Q&A, and the question is creative thinking the same as design thinking? And this is from Hi. Okay. I don't want to murder the name, so yeah, be right. If you are here, you can also unmute to ask a question.
Yeah.
So Philip, can you
take that?
Yeah, sure. While preparing for the presentation, I was also grappling with the same problem. And I think the best way to look at it is not, I don't want to get philosophical here, but I think the world is so fixated on defining things and putting things into boxes that we lose sight. That's why you see my presentation wasn't trying to follow slides or to follow one domain or to follow tech. I had examples from all over. And I think for me, if you take away anything from this presentation is, how do you think of anything or any knowledge as leverage? How do you go to finance and pick from that? How do you go to academia and learn something? And instead of focusing on the definition, just sort of focus on what you can do with it. Because if you go down the rabbit hole of definitions, everyone will have a definition. If right now we just asked what's computer science, I think all the 100 people on this call will have their own definition, but it really misses the point. And my own definition, if I'm to answer the question, I think it's the same thing. How different they are, I don't know. And I think for me, what matters the most is what I can do with both. If I Google design thinking and there are links for me to follow, I'll read. And if I Google creative thinking and there are links there, I'll just read all those links and create my own perception of reality from there.
Okay, thank you very much. That was amazing, Philip. Thank you. So we are ending the poll right now, and I'll just share the results for everyone to see. So Philip asked this question for everyone, and these are the results. So yeah, I think we have most people here as a software developer, and most are like within the space of 1 year. And yeah, most are not in their position. So this is the result of this poll. What do you think about it, Philip?
Yeah, so I think there are so many ways of looking at it, but there are positives and negatives. Positives, I think you have a chance to sort of galvanize and create your thought process before it's too late. I think for me, the reason I make such a presentation is because I'm drawing from all the experience that I've sort of walked through or had. And I feel like if someone has these tools or these techniques earlier on, their decision making is better. So I feel like that's the big positive from this data. The negative I see is not so many people are in managerial positions, which not so many of you will have the power to impact and sort of change direction, but of the company or the people that you work with. But I still think that's what makes life interesting. I think you can take it on as a challenge and try to see how many of these tools and techniques you can sort of force your team to follow or try to explore. Yeah, so it's like a positive on all ends. Yeah, so people are still hungry, people are learning, and I think it's a good, it's like that's what I perceive. Yeah, the reason for the poll, I just wanted to perceive if most people had if they had the power to enact. But I guess what I learned is that I think it's more about how do they position themselves up for success or for leadership positions, and move in the direction that sort of is not static, because sometimes you can go down a path and you don't know how to make decisions. So I think this allows them to sort of think about that earlier on. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree as well. Yeah, because I also feel like with leadership or with being in any managerial position, it starts with yourself. And so being able to understand this concept of creative thinking from one's perspective, at first, then only then would you be able to influence other people. So I think even with the demographics we have today, it's good that we are able to I've learned a lot, right? And I can already see myself using it for myself. Then, of course, I definitely want to be a manager sometime where I would then be able to also enact it, right? So I think everyone absolutely enjoyed it, and we can see ourselves using it as well. Thank you so much. Just before we allow you go, I'm sure a lot of people might want to connect with you as well. Online, maybe via your social media platforms. Do you want to say how people can reach you? Should they have any question after this as well?
Yeah, sure. I'm on LinkedIn as is everyone. I'm also on GitHub for those who are more geeky. Let me just share my LinkedIn here. Yeah, just ping me, reach me, and I'll surely answer your questions as best as I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you for your time. So your edit is definitely going to respond to whatever question you have for him outside of this class. Also, I see that Philip already dropped a link to the book someone requested, right? So we can always get more resources online around this topic. Thank you so much for your time, Philip. Any parting words before we allow you go?
Any words before I go?
Parting words?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I didn't prepare for that, but I think it's actually in one of the links I shared, but it's in the presentation. I don't know, for those who need it, I guess they will share that with you. But let me just, it is something called This is Water. It's a presentation by it's actually a commencement speech by Dr. Foster Wallace, one of the, okay, it depends on how you perceive it, but one of the greatest literature people of the 20th century. And yeah, you can find his commencement speech there. Watch it, actually listen, because it's on SoundCloud, part 1 and part 2. And the key takeaway why I end with that is because he talks about modalities of thought. If you remember, I showed that picture where someone was seeing a 9 and someone was seeing a 6. And so I think we need more of that in this world today. We need more understanding that, you know, it's not, you're not always right all the time, you know. So there are different versions of right, you know. There is the left media, the right media. And if you can just try to watch both and sort of become like, instead of just swinging left or right, sort of try to see things from different viewpoints. I think that's the key takeaway. It's, yeah, not everything comes down to right or wrong is what I'm saying. Yeah. And I think that's a skill that so many people, if you're not humble enough to go that route, life becomes really hard. Like, you know, I've worked with people who have a one definition of right, a one definition of wrong, and their decision is final or your decision is final. And I think if there was more thinking in two dimensions and asking ourselves, where did this idea come from? I think that's more important than the idea. How did this person come to this idea? I think that's very interesting. And so Dr. Foster Wallace he says this is water, and he tries to open up our minds to that innate or that thing that eludes us, to become aware of our thought process, so to speak. Yeah. Awesome. So become aware of our thought process. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure a lot of people like myself will also go into details with the presentation of Foster Wallace. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. Sure. Yeah. So quickly, I'm just going to go into the Q&A box. I see some questions just to respond. Susan was asking, how can we get, kindly let us know how and when we can watch the recording. Like Bami rightly said, the recording of the bootcamp, every session will be sent at the end of the bootcamp, so you'll be able to revisit them and watch all the sessions just in case you missed any. I also want to pick the question on, yes, also to Idowu, yes, you would also get the recording. So do not worry. But please always try to put it in your calendar to be available for the sessions. But should you not be able, don't worry, we would send the recording at the end of the bootcamp. Yes. All right, I think that's pretty much it. With Jonathan, what are the softwares we can use to record our screen? I believe I'm not using any at the moment, so I'm not really sure of what software you can use. But I mean, should anyone have ideas on that, they can offer that to you. Thank you so much, everyone. Over to you, Bami.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Kelvin, and thank you, Philip, for the amazing session. Thank you everyone for joining today. And for people asking about how they can record their screen, I also do not know, but I'm sure that you can always go back to our YouTube page and you'll be able to watch all of this session all over again. So we have it on our YouTube page, which is in the link. If you get any email from us, Our YouTube link is right there. So you can always check the YouTube page and watch the whole session all over again. And just in case you cannot even join the bootcamp itself, you can subscribe to our YouTube page and we have all the videos right there to watch. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Kelvin, for co-hosting this session. And yes, thank you very much, Philip, for the very, very insightful session. Creative thinking is not beans. Okay. I just have to put it out there. It's not beans at all. So thank you a lot for bringing us this insightful session. And thanks everyone that joined. This is just day 3. We are not even like, we are not there yet. So we still have tomorrow to go. We still have on Friday, and we have like extremely power-packed topics for the next 2 days that you don't want to miss. And we are looking forward to having you again tomorrow, same time, same link. I've been getting a lot of email that they can't log in with a particular link or so. So it's just one link for the whole bootcamp. So yes, you can always join us again tomorrow. And don't forget Friday. There's a lot of things happening on Friday. So on Friday, we'll be giving out our giveaway. Yeah. And also we have a small game that we want to play on Friday, right? We want to know how well you all have been following from day 1 to this moment. And I can't just wait. Me, I can't wait. And I'm sure you all can't wait too. So yeah. So see you all.
Don't spill the tea that
I'm not spilling. So I am holding it a little bit because I don't want to like spill everything right now, but I'm sure you all don't want to miss it. And the essence of being able to participate in that is that you have attended for the whole day, right? Even though you didn't attend, you go back and watch the recordings and you have knowledge of what was taught and what went on during all of those sessions. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoyed today's session.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Kelvin.
Not to forget, everyone who participated in the bootcamp will be awarded certificates at the end of the bootcamp. But this is also based on your attendance. So you also want to ensure that you're available for tomorrow and next. Not to worry if you probably missed 1 or 2, that will be pardonable, but you want to ensure that you stick around for tomorrow's session and that of next tomorrow as well. Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone. I think from my end, it's very well.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining today. You said au revoir. Should I speak my language too? Au d'abo. Bye-bye. Bye.